strained.
Sorry, I was using the bathroom.
But he did. I'll give Matt. He had a good kind of like response to at least part of the argument, because Pogan was saying like, oh, we don't have any background information about like God, you know, to try and like interpret with. And then he said, well, Jesus was a human. And that was decent.
That was my response when I was a Christian.
Yeah, I think
really?
he did better than anticipated, but when we got to the root of the problem, which is the interpretation of God himself, I mean, it just doesn't seem like there's a satisfactory answer to that. Not one that I've heard.
That was the best thing that I thought he said.
I wonder what direction to take there, because like it seems like a rabbit hole to chase, whether it's coherent to say that a man is God. Like, you want to avoid that, so I don't know if there's if that's the only way.
Well, the idea is that he's both, right, under the Christian view. So
yeah, so I think it does get around the interpretation argument.
Yeah, because you could say like, oh well, we have background information on humans. Jesus was human, but his like human nature is like in accord with his godly nature or whatever. I mean, there's something. I mean, it's something.
But any of Jesus's utterances or statements in the Bible are similarly subject to the problem, though, right? Because we pushed the interpretation problem down another layer, unless I'm misunderstanding.
Yeah, but if you're saying that you are like licensed to interpret humans due to background knowledge, then you can use that same background knowledge to interpret. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a good point.
So then I think it has to go to. I don't know if it has to. I have to think about it, but it seems like you're kind of doomed to show why the incarnation doesn't make any sense.
Right. Exactly. So then I don't understand. First of all, being 100% X and 100% Y at the same time doesn't seem to make any fucking sense to me. It's almost like they're saying Jesus is like just a conceptual thing, right?
Sorry, maybe I misunderstood. You said in order to counter that point, you would have to basically the argument would become showing that there's like some logical problem.
You have to now deal with the incarnation. Right? Yeah, you got to deal with the incarnation.
I could be wrong about that.
Because the objection is that, or whatever the account is, that Jesus' human nature was in account with his divine nature.
Yeah,
was in accord with.
Well, the idea is that if you can interpret humans, Jesus is human, you can interpret Jesus, but Jesus is also God, so you can interpret God.
Yeah, that's.
So then, what you have to, I think one way to go about it, and I don't know, maybe someone else can figure it out, but one way is to show that having a human nature and a God nature, those carry mutually exclusive properties.
Yeah, it doesn't make.
Okay, that is what you're saying. Well, I think that needs to be accounted for, though.
Overcomes that kind of transitivity.
What overcomes the what?
Like when Tom said, how do you be 100 and 100? I think that's the bigger problem.
He's 100% God and not 100%.
Yeah, but you can be like, I'm 100% a student and also 100% a teacher, right? That's true, but I'm a student in a university, but I'm a teacher.
Yeah, but those are two different things.
Right. The point is that that's what they have to do, right? Is they have to show that being human and being God don't carry mutually exclusive properties. Because if they don't carry mutually exclusive properties, then it's okay to say that Jesus is fully man and fully God.
Yeah, you have to show that those are the same kind of category or whatever.
Danny, do you agree with
that's the
they are
problem.
mutually exclusive?
Yeah.
Danny, do you agree with what I was saying in that? I don't know how much you heard, but do you agree with what I was saying in that conversation with Matt?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that what I would say though is when he asked you, oh, well, how do you interpret Jesus wept? You can say, well, I would interpret the writers as saying this. But if your question is, because it sounded like, I think Declan wasn't like crazy, but it did sound like you would also interpret the writers like in terms of him laughing.
Yeah, I agree. I think
Yeah.
I misspoke there. I wasn't trying to say that I would interpret the writers any which way, because there is background knowledge for the writers. The problem is specifically applicable to an attempt
But
to interpret
I
God.
think I understood your point. It's just the problem with that presentation. It's a way out for them, right? They're gonna see you as a troll, and then
Well,
Yeah,
Well,
I didn't.
but that's
I
exactly
You did a
what he
great
did.
job, but I didn't like kind of how you phrase some things. For example, like what Danny is saying, like when you say he asks you to interpret the voice and you're like, I think they're talking about cotton candy. I think there are some problems with it because that's not really the point, right? The point is that it could mean cotton candy, not that it does mean cotton candy. But then also then so you look like a troll kind of, right?
No,
Because
I
you're saying
agree.
something
Because
purposely
that's
ridiculous. But the other problem is
yeah.
that once you say it's cotton candy and you're like taking an actual position and not simply saying that it could not mean what Matt thinks it means, now you're basically interpreting scripture, which is what you said you couldn't do.
Well, I think he cut me off before I could follow that up. But what I was going to say is, well, how do you know that that interpretation is incorrect? AKA, this is not aligning with the intentions of God, right? But that was the point in the conversation where he started to get upset. So I don't think I got
yeah.
it out clearly.
But
Yeah,
Pogan, like when I was
you guys were
listening,
talking past each other. Sorry, Danny. Go.
no, when I was listening, sometimes I thought you were reading from a script. It's pretty impressive how well you've gotten that.
Yeah, I
Like
mean it's all the methamphetamine coursing through my veins, Danny.
okay,
So.
well, it's impressive.
I agree. I didn't even hear this, but I've heard
Yeah,
Hogan,
but
do the same thing.
So when you start talking about balloons and cotton candy, he kind of just shuts down because just like he's like, oh, this guy's just a troll, you know. It's like,
Yeah, it's an easy out for them. I agree.
So how often has a comparison between, say, you or me or just humans and God been objected to as some kind of category error? And I think that's when you try to say that Jesus' human nature was in accord with his divine nature, it's the same kind of category error. I don't know how that can be appealed to.
real quick, Danny, did you see Darth vs. Ozzy? It's pretty funny, pretty good.
Jesus Christ.
I did see it. Darth changed up strategies, and I was like trying to figure out what was going on.
Why?
He was trying to temper himself to keep Ozzy on stage.
Is that what he
Because
wanted?
like
He wanted Ozzy there?
it's like
Yes.
debating someone who it's like a magician trying to like perform like birthday party level sleight of hand against someone who used to be like a birthday party magician. I think he just didn't think it would like work.
I thought that he was being nice and everything. That way, you could tell his cohorts, like, "Oh, look how nice I was to Ozzy Mandius." I was very polite, and the guy was just rude. I think that's what he was trying to like.
No, I think that Ozzy has too much clout. It's kind of like when he debated me, and people are like, "Wow, I'm surprised he just like he was talking for that long." It's just like it looks so bad if you do that right off the rip, right? After like so much build up and stuff like that. And Ozzy, he's got kind of a reputation, so you can't just like kick him and be like, "Oh, he's just a troll." It just doesn't work.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out.
The same way he would talk to Oppie or Lawrence Krauss, whatever. Somebody of a different caliber.
It seems like he wanted to try out some new moves too, like some new specialized vocabulary with Ozzy. And I really enjoyed that Ozzy just didn't forget who Darth was and wasn't going to have any of the sort of interruptions and normal bullshit that he does.
Not very Matt
Danny, have
Slick
you
of
ever
him, am I right? Sorry, go.
you ever played a game with someone and like you're just better than them, so like you can get away with stuff and like they're just not good enough or don't know how, so you just kind of like abuse certain tactics, right?
Yeah.
And then like when that same play, you like say you play someone who's like better than you and that previous person is observing you, Right? We've all been in a situation where it's like, dude, why didn't you just do that thing that you do to me, right? And it's like the reason is because, like, dude, I know it's not gonna work on him, right? That's why I didn't do it, right? So that's probably just like, Darth is just thinking that, oh, it's like I'm not gonna get away with like just some bullshit about agnosticism or something. By the way, Ozzy is the one who started Steve McRae on all that definition of atheism bullshit. So I mean,
Oh,
it's
Ozzy
just...
started McRae on all that?
Yeah, Ozzy, like in a casual, it was just like sort of a casual comments made by Ozzy, like here and there about atheism and everything. Said the atheist should have like a burden, kind of like the more rigorous understanding of it, and like Steve grabbed onto that and then like formalized it and turned it into like his legacy or whatever.
His legacy.
I think he had, no joke. I think he's actually used that word, which is cringe, but whatever. But yeah, Ozzy assumed like a positive burden, even though it was a provisional one. Yeah, he's like, yeah.
Ozzy's the first person I've ever heard to coin the term lactheist. Probably about 6 years ago, I heard him say that.
Well, wouldn't you expect that?
He literally might have been the one person who coined it. I'm not sure because I'd never heard it before.
Yeah, but you would expect that the person who have coined the word be the only person, like the first person to use it, right?
That's what it means, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he has that real atheology show on YouTube, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, he's my Facebook friend. I've talked to him before.
There are a couple of them, right, that are part of that podcast.
Yeah, Danny, you want to hear a joke?
Sure.
What do you call it when you argue
John
knowledge?
Lee.
What do you call it when you argue about knowledge but you're irritated?
I don't know.
Epistemology.
Hey, can you guys
Kick
do
him.
me a favor? Can you guys do me a favor and not let Silverstone on stage as long as he's got me blocked because I couldn't get in the room for half an hour.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. Oh, are you? Thank you.
Hogan, how did the rest of the conversation with Matt Slick go? It seemed like when I left, he was looking for an excuse to leave.
I mean, that's what
It kind of
he
plateaued there.
He just bottomed out in like insulting me and calling me a stupid fool or something, but he didn't have an answer to the fundamental question, which was what principled criteria does one use to correctly interpret God's utterances? Right, that's just not something he chose to answer.
What was his response? Did you also talk about the problem of evil? What was his response to that?
Yeah, he says that he has to define evil first.
Oh man.
Yeah, I pointed out it was an internal critique, and then he kept asking me over and over again to define evil, even though it's irrelevant to the
His
question.
response
Hogan tried to just
really-
ask him would evil entail this at least, and he wouldn't give him anything. He'd say, "Look, you guys are hiding your worldview, so I can't critique it.
Yeah.
It's off. It's like ridiculous."
But see, the problem you can't answer Matt Slick when he asks you a question like that, because if you say, "Oh, I believe X, Y," he'll just immediately begin interrogating you instead of answering the question that you initially asked him.
Yeah, it's a similar.
As well. It's
the same thing. Darth. Yeah, him and Darth are similar in that way, right? They are always on the offensive, never on the defensive. If they're on, Matt Slick will take on the defensive a lot more than Darth will, but still, he wants to get you on your toes, not the other way around.
Didn't Ty try that yesterday as well? I mean, I think it's just in their playbook.
But what do you believe? Let's talk about that instead.
He literally tried to keep his fucking conception of evil in his pocket. It's crazy.
And then he accused Delano of obfuscating. He wouldn't tell him his definition of evil.
They opened a cope room, if anybody noticed.
God doesn't exist because...
What Matt Slick did?
Yeah, it's don't answer a fool according to something or other. That's the name of the room.
That's funny.
And I think, didn't he try to get you to interpret that scripture with him?
Yeah.
That's so weird. I think it's a tactic common to those who espouse presuppositional apologetics.
You didn't claim that was a contradiction, did you, Pogan?
I didn't make any claim about contradictions. It was just the problem of interpretation.
Oh, okay.
For the parents in the room, any advice for a kid with a urinary tract infection?
Take him to the doctor.
I did.
Antibiotics.
He's got antibiotics, but last night was rough. I literally didn't sleep.
Pull-ups.
What's
Is it
what's
because he's?
sleep?
Is it?
Dunkin Atheism, aka Darth Dawkins, is the least Christian and most petulant and most narcissistic theist I've ever had the displeasure of talking to. Just interested in winning, not even worried about saving my soul. And my conversation with him resulted in the single largest bump of subscribers I've ever had in a 24-hour period. Over 30 subscribers and counting, that's big for me. So by that metric, I would consider it my best performance yet. And by the metric that I actually made him rage quit. By the way, changing his name to Demolish Atheism is pretty uncreative and dumb. At least Dunkin Atheism makes for a moderately visually interesting logo. So I have an announcement to make. I am officially changing my name to Dunkin Darth. But seriously, I'm so thankful to all of you who watch and subscribe. I will try to be worthy.
Hey everybody, today we are debating atheism versus Christianity, and we are starting right now. Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have you here for another epic debate. Very excited. Oh my goodness. This is honestly a blast, folks. I want to say thanks so much. You guys put me in the greatest mood. This is always so fun. And if you hadn't seen during the tour, we just had a short tour traveling a bit. So we were in Austin, Texas, and then Los Angeles. So those debates were off the charts, so fun, and we were excited because the fun just doesn't stop. It just keeps on coming. In fact, you'll see on the bottom right of your screen, this Friday, Nathan Thompson, the famous or infamous flat earther, depending on your perspective, will be here debating with Fight the Flat Earth. That's going to be a big one, folks. Really excited about that. And so if it's your first time here, consider hitting that subscribe button, as we've got a lot more debates coming up that we are very excited for, just like that one. And folks, want to let you know up front, both of our speakers, who we are very thankful to have, Snake was right, and Dunkin Atheism, who some have called Darth Dawkins, they both have their links in the description. This is going to be in basically a pretty much open discussion type of format. So we're going to have Dunkin Atheism go first, as he wants to make an announcement, and following that he'll do his opening statement, followed by the opening statement from Snake was right. So with that, very excited to have you here. Thanks so much for all your guys' love and encouragement too. It was a crazy tour. So we had some crazy stuff happen, like we had to change a venue.
Okay, my name is Sidney Winston, and welcome to the show. I think we have in store today an incredible piece of memorabilia that'll keep us going for generations to come. Snake was right against dumb Dunkin Atheism. Dunkin Atheism is known as evolution false, as well as some Darth Dawkins and various other names. So I don't really know what to call him in his to call his online character. His in real life character is there's always one name. So online, like I say, his online character, I sometimes just don't know what to call him. Darth does rage quit because Snake was right. Deadpan as always. deflects every single stupid question that or stupid statement that Dunkin Atheism makes in this comedy hour. It is actually hilarious. If you put on your Monty Python hat and watch it through the Monty Python glasses, we're gonna have fun. Let's go.
And you, it was like we were at the start time. We were like, you know what, this is just not gonna work. There's no way. So we had to change a venue on one of the debates. Actually, twice we had to do that. That was crazy. So thanks so much for all of your support, folks. With that, I'm going to switch it over to Dunkin Atheism for his opening statement and announcement. Apparently, I have no idea what this is, folks. So I didn't screen the announcement, but Dunkin Atheism, the floor is all yours.
Well, I've been wanting to reveal this information for quite some time. I've debated about whether to reveal it or not. I knew it eventually would get out, and I didn't want to be misrepresented or distorted. I wanted to have the widest possible audience, and so people could hear from me rather than through the rumor mill. I've decided to come out of the closet and reveal who and what I really am. I am a part of the LGBT community. For some time now, I've been transitioning in my avatar and my screen name. I've been transitioning from Evolution False to Darwin's Deity to Darth Dawkins, Dunkin Atheism, and tonight I will be making the final transition to Demolishing Atheism. I've decided to come out of the closet and reveal that I am no longer, or I will be holding to a non-binary position. I no longer hold to the binary designation for humans of being atheist and theist. The atheist-theist binary is false. I totally reject the notion of atheist, dogmatic, God-denying bigotry and theophobia. It's as real as the Easter Bunny and the invisible sky fantasy. I now lack belief in the atheophobic reasoning and models of reality. So I wanted you to hear it from me first, as being a part of the LGBT community, which is not the community that you're thinking of. It is the Elohim, which is the Hebrew word for God. Elohim, God believers in the Trinity, questioning God deniers community. So yes, I'm a part of that LGBT community, but not the other one. So we are part of the Elohim, God believers in the Trinity, questioning God deniers. So you heard it here first tonight. And that's my announcement about myself. My opening statement is that the God of Christianity has revealed himself in natural revelation and special revelation. He has revealed that he is the ground of all being and the ground of all knowledge, the ground of intelligibility. And the denial, the non-acceptance, which will amount to the denial thereof, will result in complete metaphysical absurdity. Now, nobody can be neutral about what is ultimate, let alone God. Now, some people will say they lack belief in God, but I'll demonstrate tonight that that is an indirect form of denial. So one will either have to accept the revelation of God, that he is the the unifying first principle that will provide for all human existence and intelligibility, or one will have to sit there in a state of absurdity, having no grounding for any of their assertions or statements of possibility. And that's it.
Thank you very much for that.
Okay, so that is as much gobbledygook as you will get from anybody at any time in one breath. The biggest lot of shite that you've ever heard, because he immediately goes into the into his opening statement with with an unexplained presupposition of his God. He presupposes the existence of his God. The other person on the other side has, as far as I can tell, by the moderator, there was no introduction of how to, of where to start. They either have to agree that God is possible. Both have to agree that God is possible in order for this debate to take place, in my opinion. A debate that does not include the axiom that God is impossible, and that theology and religion and all that kind of stuff is all just fantasy literature, and certainly not credible a source to rely on for a serious debate. So this should be fun. I will carry on. We'll let these guys carry on.
Duncan, we'll now switch it over to Snake's opening statement. We welcome you here, Snake, and the floor is all yours.
Thanks for having me. So I always find it funny that when people say that God has revealed himself, and apparently not to me, not to the majority of the human race, at least not your God. All these arguments usually go something along the lines of God exists because only God can account for what he's described here as the unifying first principle, or God is that unifying first principle, and only that can account for morality or absolute or fundamental truths, or intelligibility or logic, and logic and morality exist, therefore God exists. And all of these just assume the premise that X is only possible through God by assuming that there is no naturalistic explanation for them. There is no reason given for this baseless assumption that nature cannot explain them. And moreover, naturalism easily and obviously accounts for all those things like morality and fundamental absolute truths. And in fact, they must exist for any supernatural to exist. And I don't understand why the natural world needs a grounding, but the supernatural world doesn't need a grounding. Why don't you leap to the supernatural? So this unifying first principle, I'm willing to agree that there is one, but you can't establish that it is a God or a mind of any kind. In fact, gods must follow the rules of these unifying first principles in order for their minds to even exist. They must follow some outside code of morality in order to be considered good. You simply can't define God as good just because it's a God. Even the mind of God is contingent upon the rules that minds must follow, and a perfect mind must follow logic perfectly, at least. The fact that God is limited to a particular nature means that God is contingent upon whatever is making that nature coherent. My argument in a couple of words is God is dependent on rationality and not the other way around. Therefore, Duncan's arguments don't work because they depend on the untenable position that rationality is dependent upon God. And well, his position is rationality is dependent upon God, rationality exists, therefore God exists. But that first premise, rationality is dependent upon God, is absolutely false. And you simply cannot ground logic or intelligibility or morality in a God, or else you suffer from an appeal to authority and circular reasoning, which Duncan has admitted to previously. We'll see if he still stands by that. Now, a legitimate appeal to authority is appealing to an authority's expertise, and we can assume here God is correct about morality or whatever he's making pronouncements on, but that just means he's an expert in it. And all experts are merely studying phenomena outside of themselves. An expert in nuclear physics is just discovering the phenomena. Same with God's expertise, if God is right. And he's merely exploring how it works. But God himself is not the source of these things. He can only emerge from these fundamental truths. Just like the example I gave, a nuclear physicist is not the source of nuclear physics. He's merely understanding it. And so I'm going to go through a couple of syllogisms here. So presuppositionalism, I think, is basically what's going on here. And my first premise is faith alone can justify any belief. So, and he's only using faith for this, which we'll unpack later. Premise 2 is if God is good, then we need some way to confirm this in order to avoid worshiping evil or false gods. Premise 3, we already have to know what God good is in order to call God good. And so therefore, knowledge and morality precede knowledge of God. faith is just not good enough. We have to have this standard outside to be able to test it. This would be important in analyzing whether the Bible, for example, is a document inspired by Satan. So either we can assume for no reason that it is inspired by Satan or inspired by God, or there's a standard by which we can hold the words of the Bible to. So just assuming that it's God's word, therefore it's true, does not solve the problem of whether or not it actually is God's word. And God's word, or anything claimed to be God's word, must be able to be independently verified. Otherwise, we just have to believe it on blind faith alone, which is not a reason to believe anything. My second syllogism is for the precedence of logic over belief in God as well. First premise is God cannot change fundamental objective truths like the laws of logic. Premise 2 is fundamental objective truths are true in all circumstances in all possible worlds, no matter what, and therefore God is influenced by these fundamental truths, or unifying first principles, as Dunkin would say, and they are not influenced by God's. So I'd be interested to know how Christianity is well, first of all, I don't understand how you can get from a God exists to therefore Christianity is true and Jesus is God. But I'd also be interested to see how you can say that Christianity is a better moral or scientific standard from its supposed God, because of that ancient book that endorses slavery, rape, and genocide and has absolutely no knowledge of real science, especially diseases. So I don't see how you can say that God has revealed himself through the natural world when the Bible, the chief source of this revelation, is wrong on almost every level. And atheism is just the default whenever you can't establish the existence of a God. So that's my position. I don't believe anyone has established any existence of any God. So that's where I land. And I think we were talking beforehand. I think that is a position of neutrality. I have no bias. In fact, actually, I'll recant that. My bias, I would rather live in a world with a God, with a heaven. I don't believe it. I would rather have $1 million in my bank account. I don't believe it. I need evidence. So let's see. I would characterize his arguments as circular reasoning and trying to define God into existence rather than point to him with evidence. So why don't we just jump right in? That'll be my conclusion.
Thank you.
All right, let me post the link for Pio and anyone else. Well, Pio specifically. I'll just be the only one who's going to be letting you Pio. So please join. And well, until you're coming in, I'm going to just let it play because they've both given the opening statements. And you would be joining at exactly the right time. Pio, my mate. Right. We'll just carry on until Pio makes an appearance.
Very much. Snake was right. We will not.
Are you done, James? Okay, you just dropped out. Okay, so let me just recap and make clear that you are rejecting my position that the God of the Bible exists, and we know this in virtue of natural.
All right, Pio's joining in. Let's just wait for him to unmute and stuff. Yeah, this is recorded, I believe, in 2020. So not that long ago. Good day, Pio.
Because I can only see it on YouTube. I don't know if you play it. if I'll hear the voice in our chat. I hope I'll do.
Well, I thought you wanted to comment on stuff that you already. You said you already had some comments.
I've watched this debate. I watched this debate.
Yes.
And I don't want to spoil it, so let's go, because Snake is very, 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 very clever in this.
Yes, I know. That's why I love it so much. Let me see if I can share it with you.
And Das will go on renting and not be able to understand or pretend not to be able to understand.
Yes.
What Snake is talking about.
Of course. Well, he probably doesn't understand because Darth Dawkins is a fucking idiot.
Stay cool.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Snake's deadpan all the way through. Can you see anything that I'm sharing? Or am I sharing
until now, no.
Sharing the tab. It says I'm sharing the tab. Yes, I am sharing the tab.
I can see it on YouTube that you're sharing something.
No, I'm sharing it. I am sharing it to here.
Chat.
Well, it could be just that we've hit one of those resource snags. Oh, I see what's going on. It's just
to rearrange my window, but
yeah.
Still
No, you won't see it. It's just slow. So just give me one moment. In fact, give me 2 moments. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Lucky Wolf
turn your
in
camera.
The chat is saying. My camera is not connected.
Ah, good. Okay. Lucky Wolfen is saying.
We all know the ending already. Yes, even if you didn't see this discussion, you of course know what will happen at the end.
Yeah.
Duncan will be pissed off.
Yeah, he rage quits.
And complain to the moderator.
It looks like this Jitsi is a resource hog. Because if you can see it, if you can see on YouTube what it's doing is it's... You can see. Yeah, you can see.
I mean, I can see what's happening on YouTube. I cannot see it here in our chat.
No, well, I've shared it
myself.
I've shared it, but it hasn't.
That's why
I've shared it, but it hasn't actually sort of come through yet. It takes about 20 minutes. But I think we can carry on anyway. I don't have any lag set up, so there shouldn't be much. We'll give it a try.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, I'm just going to play. Tell me where you hear it, and if you hear it twice, just mute once.
Natural and special revelation. The natural revelation consists that all facts collectively and individually indicate God. We know that that the seen indicates the unseen, and that will be eternal. And the eternal will have to be personal, otherwise we couldn't be personal. So that would be the basic issue, that the natural world reveals God.
What does that mean? Eternal will have to be personal.
Well, I'm sure you believe that there are certain phenomenon that you do see indicates things that are unseen, like Wi-Fi or radio waves, right? You accept that?
Unseen by our naked eyes.
Are there unseen things that we cannot see that are indicated by the things that we do see?
Do you mean unseen as in naked human eyes, or not detectable?
I'm talking about our
Sid,
eyes,
can you
that there are
pause
things
it
that we
just for 1
cannot see
second?
with our eyes that we infer.
Absolutely. It's paused.
So the problem is I cannot see the stream inside our room, right? At all.
Oh, you know
I
why?
can
Because it
only
cut
watch
off.
it on.
It cut off. Hold on. Let me try to do it.
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah,
at any point.
there is no stream. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
So I can only follow it on YouTube, which has a 10 to 15 seconds delay.
Yeah, so I'm now sharing it to the room. So you should see it. According to computer technology, you should see it. If it doesn't show, I don't know.
So stop sharing your screen. Open chat. No. Wait slower. Part you.
I'm sharing the screen.
So I told the view, it's like I have my, maybe I don't know how to work with this room. But
it should just come up. It should. I don't see it either, but it should come up as a. It should just come up as another frame. But then again, I don't see it either. So it's not really a you problem. It's a me problem.
You mean like hashtag me too problem?
Yeah. Because I don't see it either. I just see the two of us. Plus it's sharing.
And sharing is caring. Oh, something appears. Maybe now.
Yeah, I made it full screen,
If
so
you
I'm going to
play
see
it.
what happens. Hold on.
I see now screen and screen and screen and
Yeah,
screen.
that's okay. So that's
I'll
hold
mute
on.
YouTube.
You don't do anything. It's all on my side. Why are you? You can't. Nothing you do will change anything on my screen.
Yeah.
So just let me see if I can have this program settle down, and then I'm going to try and share the screen again. Okay, there we go. Now let's try share the screen. Share. Chrome tab. Because I'm an idiot.
Now you found out why or what?
I did.
No,
now
it's just because you didn't pray to Darth Dawkins. That's the problem.
Well, I know better now. But the thing is, can you still see it? No, I don't see it.
Until now,
hold on.
I still can't see anything.
Yes, I understand that because it hasn't appeared yet. It's slow. It's coming. Oh no, it's not coming. Oh yes, it's coming.
No.
Well, I'm just gonna, this is annoying for everybody watching, so I'm just gonna keep it playing until this figures.
No, I think it's more entertaining than Darth Dawkins. No, I'm just joking.
Okay.
Of course, Darth Dawkins is the best
Clown that are there by what is seen.
No, we don't have to infer or extrapolate that wind or Wi-Fi exists.
Okay,
sure.
You don't infer Wi-Fi?
No.
Oh, so you don't make any scientific inferences that there's invisible wavelengths?
No, I can actually test it.
No, testing would involve an inferential process. Science is largely inferential and involves extrapolation. You are aware that science is almost largely inferential.
Not really.
No, science is inferential. Okay, because if you cannot see it, if you cannot touch, taste it, smell it, feel
An
it,
observation isn't an inference. Sorry.
An observation. All observations are inherently theory laden.
So
Do you deny that?
let's say hello to
Inherently
Patio
theory laden.
Yes.
Explain that.
You're confusing sense datum, okay, sensory experience, with a cognitive, almost immediate conclusion from sense data. So I don't want to belabor the point on this. So you reject the notion that all facts, individually and collectively, necessitate referencing God as the unifying first principle. Is that correct?
Of course.
Okay, and you reject also that the Christian scriptures as a complete package, as a complete system,
absolutely
detailing God's property and attribute set.
Yeah, I think that's...
May I finish, please? Okay, so the Bible details God's basic property set, such as that He is eternal, He is absolute, He is ultimate, He is omniscient, omnipotent, always truth revealing, and He has a sovereign plan. All of which you reject, that those are prerequisites for human intelligibility, and that they have not been provided to us by God in a self-attesting manner. So you reject that.
Yeah, you have yet to show any reason why I should believe that.
Okay, have you read the Bible?
Yeah, I've read the entire Bible more than once. Can I finish? The Bible is possibly the single worst reference for any of the thing that you're talking about.
Who are listening?
Okay, did you use your reason to come to that conclusion?
Yes.
Okay, and what is it that metaphysically,
an astronaut,
from a unified,
You just actually, said he is.
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay, actually, I did explain it, but you rejected the evidentiary and rational justification. You have rejected that. Now, when I'm asking you,
I didn't hear any evidence.
Okay, well, actually, I did present it to you.
No, you didn't.
Okay, I explained to you that all of the natural world, both individual and collective facts, indicate that there is an eternal, unseen metaphysical primary.
Yeah, okay? That's just an assertion. Which facts?
Okay, I would appreciate you stop over talking me.
Which facts?
I would appreciate you stop.
I would appreciate you stop guilt galloping.
I would appreciate you stop over talking me. No, I would appreciate you stop over talking me. I've been doing my best not to overtalk.
No, you haven't.
It's challenging where it's. If Snake has a question on like what one of the terms you're using is, like, I think it's probably good to jump in like somewhat.
Well, I'm not being long-winded, and I would appreciate you not cutting me off.
You're being very long-winded. What evidence are you talking about?
No, I'm not. Okay.
Yes, you are.
Every time I try to get a couple of sentences out, here we go again.
What evidence?
Okay. I'm trying to speak to you, and you keep cutting me off.
What evidence?
I have presented to you.
1 second. Let's let Darth go for a second, and then we'll come back. I promise, Taylor, and we'll hear your question, but we'll let him try to finish maybe like a few sentences for you to ask questions about. Go ahead, Darth.
Now, what I have presented is the individual and collective facts in the world all necessarily indicate the eternal, that the eternal would have to be personal. Otherwise, I couldn't be personal. Otherwise, you would be making an implicit counter argument that the impersonal ultimacy begets the personal, which we can momentarily discuss. You have rejected that. You have rejected that the Bible also is a self-attesting witness of God in special revelation, revealing God's necessary property set grounding intelligibility, not only for all facts, but human knowledge and reason. So what I'm asking you now, since you reject the Christian worldview and the Christian God as the necessary precondition, what is the necessary precondition or metaphysical primary that will provide for any possibility?
I asked you what evidence. You said the individual and collective facts indicate that it has to be personal. What facts? You're just asserting that those facts. You're just saying all the facts indicate it. What facts?
I've already explained that position. You have rejected it. I have now asked you, since you reject that I'd like to finish, please.
You have asserted it.
I'd like to finish, please. Now, you have rejected my evidentiary presentation as evidence. You have denied that it is evidence, indicating that God is the ultimacy, the metaphysical primary of existence. So you've gone on record, you've rejected the presentation, which I understand and I accept your position. Not that I believe it. My question for you is, when you invoked concepts of reason, knowledge, and evidence, which would be causal relations between events, that's going to require some metaphysical framework or foundational primary. What I would like to know from you is, since you do not accept that the God of the Bible is the metaphysical primary, I want to know, what is it that is metaphysically primary that will demarcate and prescribe what is possible and impossible? What is it?
I want to get to that, but you keep interrupting me. The reason I reject it is because you have merely asserted that all facts indicate your God, and I'm trying to ask you what evidence indicates your God. You're just saying all of it.
Did you need me to repeat the question?
I have been asking you the same question, and you tried to.
Can
I finish? Can I finish?
Mm-hmm.
What you're ignoring, what you're trying to pawn off and try to change the subject on, is I'm pushing you on the reason I reject what you're saying is because you haven't given any specifics. You've merely asserted that all facts indicate your God, so you can't answer that. So you're trying to push it onto me and ask me a question because you can't answer it.
Okay, actually, I did give you an answer. The fact that you did not believe it does not mean that I did not give you an answer. So in turn, I asked you, since you reject the presentation, the evidentiary support, and the rational justification for the God of the Bible being metaphysically primary, since you reject that, you have then went on, you have made a number of statements of possibility and impossibility. What I would like to know, since the God of the Bible is not metaphysically primary for those things, I would like to know from you, you said earlier that we shouldn't be making baseless assumptions. You have made numerous statements of possibility and impossibility. So what I would like to know is, what is it that is metaphysically primary that provides and prescribes for all possibility and impossibility?
I really want to get to that. That's what I want. What I wanted to have
this
conversation on, and I would like to finish what I'm saying. But you didn't give an answer, which is why you can't give me the answer again. You've merely asserted that all things. Maybe I missed it. How about you tell me just one piece of evidence?
Okay. All facts, both individually and collectively,
just as I said,
temporal facts indicate an eternal.
Which ones?
Okay, I'd like to finish.
Which ones is what I'm asking. You didn't hear me.
All facts.
You didn't hear me.
Yeah, you keep on cutting me off. I would appreciate you stop cutting me off.
We'll come back. Well, it's totally fine to want to know what those terms are. What we'll do is maybe just give Darth a few sentences, and then we'll come right back to what those facts are in particular.
Yeah, being obnoxious in a conversation does not make for good debate. Now, I have presented to you. The evidentiary case.
I'm sorry for the
Christian
typing
worldview.
noise.
You have personally concluded that it does not constitute evidentiary support and rational justification. Is that correct?
What's correct is when I ask what facts indicate it, you literally respond, all facts indicate it. So you can't answer the question. So let's move on.
Have you rejected my evidentiary presentation and rational justification for God?
There's nothing to reject. You've just merely said all facts indicate it. When I ask you what those facts are, you just say all facts. So you don't have a answer for me.
Okay, actually,
so we'll move on to my answer.
Do you reject the rational justification that I presented? Do you not accept it?
There's no argument there. You just said all
Okay,
facts indicate it.
So you don't accept what I said. Is that correct?
No, I do not accept it.
Okay, good. Thank you. Now we're going to make progress here. Now, you made a number of assertions about what is, can be, and cannot be. Okay, what I'd like to know from you, since you categorically do not accept that the God of the Bible is metaphysically and ontologically primary, I would like to know, when you make assertions of possibility and impossibility in your worldview, what is it that is metaphysically primary or ontologically primary that prescribes any and all possibility?
You say it's God, even though you can't give me even a single reason why it's God. You can't actually explain how God is necessary for any of these things. My answer is the law of non-contradiction. Something cannot exist and not exist at the same time, in the same place, in the same way. And from that, or along with that, we can include the law of excluded middle, that something is either true or it's not true, and the law of identity, that which is. And so what I base everything on is nothingness cannot be at any time. There at no point was there nothingness. Why are you interrupting me?
Because I'd like to know how you know that.
Know what?
How do you know that nothingness cannot be?
Well, you interrupted me. I was getting to it.
Okay.
Perhaps you could allow me to finish. Nothingness cannot be and at the same time produce something. Otherwise, then it's something. Something exists, therefore nothingness never existed, if that makes any sense. Nothingness is totally logically incoherent.
What is it that is metaphysically primary that prescribes all those possibilities and impossibilities that you have stated?
The law of non-contradiction.
Is the
something
law of
is what it is.
Is the law of non-contradiction something that is concrete or abstract?
It's obviously concrete.
Okay. Can you give me what is the first property of that is concrete, that is metaphysically primary? What is its concrete property?
That which is.
All right, just for Pio, regarding not being able to see the stream on in our chat room, yeah, it's too taxing on my system. It slows it right down if I try and do that. So what we'll do is we can stop whenever we want and have a conversation about it, and then at the end or whenever we'll just open up the room to anybody else who would like to join and have a conversation about it. I think that's the way to do it for right now. So we'll just we'll let this play. And we can certainly, you do the interrupting if you want to say something, and then we'll take it from there. All right, Pio, buddy. Hearing no opposition, I take it that you agree.
No, I'm asking you what is metaphysically primary. Okay. Hold on a second. All you're simply telling me, the laws of logic, which we can discuss momentarily, simply describe how anything that is extant is. It doesn't tell me why it is. I want to know what it is that is primary and why it exists ontologically, not that it cannot exist in a state where it cannot equal its negation. What is it that is metaphysically primary? Okay, the ground of all being, that prescribes why anything at all exists. The laws of non-contradiction does not explain why why things ontologically exist.
Yeah,
so
it does.
The question is, no, it doesn't. All it simply describes that what is cannot equal its negation.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't
and so
tell
we
you why
have
it is.
Something. So
does the law of non-contradiction explain why things exist ontologically?
Yeah.
How?
Because there is something. Therefore, nothingness.
Why does something exist?
Nothingness is not possible. Therefore, the only other possibility is something.
No, when you say nothingness is not possible, you're talking about a possibility. I want to know ontologically what is primary, that why anything at all exists. Telling me the law of excluded middle, the law of non-contradiction, does not tell me why something ontologically exists. It simply states that whatever does exist, it cannot equal its negation. It doesn't tell me why it ontologically exists. So I'd like to know, what is it that is ontologically primary that prescribes why anything is possible? Does the law of non-contradiction, is it possible for me to, does the law of non-contradiction, does it prescribe whether I can jump to the moon right now?
Yeah.
No, does it prescribe why I can do that?
You can't.
No. Does the law of non-contradiction, saying A cannot equal not A, does it prescribe why I can or cannot jump to the moon?
Sure.
How?
Because it describes the behaviors of all things.
No, how does it describe why I can or cannot jump to the moon? All it's saying is A cannot equal not A.
Mm-hmm.
So how does the law of non-contradiction prescribe what I can and cannot do, other than it cannot equal its negation?
Because what you are is limited by what it is, and what you are is something that cannot jump to the moon. It's like binary.
Why
Can't I jump to the moon? Ones and zeros, which is either on or off, and that the combination of just that binary code can create all of the different things that we're doing right now.
That is a non-answer to what I just said. I'm shocked that you even said that.
Just to be sure that
the law,
we get to hear I don't know if he was done yet. Taylor, okay. Was that the rest? Was that all you had to say, or were you still going?
No, but he can go.
The law of non-contradiction just is simply the position that whatever is, it can't equal its negation. It doesn't tell me what prohibits what's possible and impossible with respect to it cannot equal its negation. Now, what I'd like to know is, what is it that is metaphysically primary that prescribes any and all possibility other than an entity cannot equal its negation? Are there other possibilities and impossibilities other than an entity equaling its negation or not equaling its negation? Are there any other possibilities?
I'm not sure what you're not understanding about this. Just saying ontologically doesn't make it more or less coherent. We know, for example, that God cannot do this because God is subject to those very same laws, and he cannot break them. Therefore, he is subject to them.
Are there laws that are metaphysically primary?
Yeah, we've been over them.
Okay. Well, stating the laws of logic would be universals. Do you know? Okay. How do you know any universals exist?
Well, anything else is incoherent.
I'm still waiting. How do you know that there are universals?
Because the opposite is incoherent.
Yeah, that's just definitional. How do you know that anything is universal?
How do you know?
I'm waiting for an answer.
I already answered you.
I'd like an answer to my question.
I already answered you. How do you know?
How do I know? Through the revelation of God, but you reject that.
That's not a way to know anything. Some guy told me, or I had a vision, is not a way of knowing anything.
Okay. What is ontologically the foundation of why there can be reason?
Because it works. The laws of logic work.
Well, the laws of logic are abstractions. Do you mean the way the world works in terms of the causal principle?
I'm not sure what you mean by that, but we know that God is.
No, you said things that work.
God is subject to all of those things that we're talking about. So we know that God is contingent upon.
So what is it that is ultimate then?
I would describe it as logic. Obviously, logic as we know it is just a language to describe how it works.
Is logic abstract or concrete?
Are you interrupting me right now?
No, I'd like to know if it's concrete or abstract.
Did you just interrupt me? Yes or no?
That's a qualifying question.
Hmm.
You seem to be evading many of my questions.
Since you interrupted while I was speaking, I didn't hear what you asked.
It's amazing how Darth Dawkins is allowed a qualifying question when everybody else who tries to ask a qualifying question of Darth Dawkins is rudely over-talking him.
Yeah. Is logic that which is ultimate?
Sure, I would say so.
Okay. Is it concrete or abstract?
Both.
Okay. Well, actually, it has to be one or the other.
Nope.
Can you tell me what the concrete properties are of what is ultimate?
What do you mean by concrete, though? It's
are
it
you
is
not aren't you
immaterial.
are okay? If it's immaterial, then it's okay.
I
Listen.
said is immaterial. In I-N.
Okay, I want to
And
know.
it is also able to be abstracted by minds.
I want
So
to
it is
know
both.
what it is. What it is the reason why anything at all exists. Why does the moon exist?
The moon? Because
Yeah,
a
why does
rock
the sun
hit the earth.
Okay. No, I'm talking about foundationally and in a metaphysically primary way.
Why does anything exist?
Why does okay, do you believe in matter and energy, causality, and laws of nature? Why do those things exist? Are they eternal or are they temporal?
Whatever is creating them is eternal.
I would like to know what is it that is metaphysically primary that instantiated matter, energy, causality, and laws of nature?
The brute fact that nothingness is logically incoherent. So
Okay.
it cannot exist, so the alternative must exist.
Do you know what a brute fact is?
Mm-hmm.
What?
It's just something that is true.
Is it something? It's something that's true that does not actually have an explanation. It just is.
Sure.
Okay, so do you accept that what is ultimate is simply an array of brute facts?
Maybe.
Well, you need to tell me what it is. If you're going to deny that the God of the Bible and his property set are not grounds for reason and human intelligibility, I want to know what is metaphysically primary and ultimate. Okay, so what is it that is ultimate? Is it an array of brute facts?
It is the facts that nothingness is logically incoherent.
I don't even know what that means.
I've explained it to you many times.
Is what is ultimate one or the many?
It could be one, it could be many. I know it's not a mind.
No, what I'd like to know is it one thing or is it many?
I don't know.
So you don't know what's ultimate then?
I know it's not a god.
Do you know what is ultimate?
We know parts of it, sure.
What is it that is ultimate? Is it one concrete thing, or is it one thing abstractly, which is a concrete many?
Personally, I understand it more as one thing.
Is it a concrete thing? One?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. What is the fundamental ontological property of the one?
That it exists. That something must exist.
Existence is not a predicate. That's a big mistake in philosophy. I want to know what it is that is on. Why? Because existence is not a predicate. It's not a property. Now, what I'd like to know from you is, since you believe that you can reason, you can be coherent without the God of the Bible. All right. I want to know what it is that is ontologically primary that prescribes any and all possibility. You told me it was a concrete one, but it is not a concrete many. Is that correct?
From the way I understand it.
Okay,
it could be
then,
there's three laws of thought. It could be three.
I don't want to know what could be.
Understand.
I don't want to know what could be.
The other two come from the one, which is the law of non-contradiction.
No, I don't. You see, you're very confused here. I don't want to know what you say it could be. I want to know what it is in your worldview that grounds the statements of possibility. Remember earlier you said we cannot make baseless assumptions. So I want to know foundationally and ontologically, what is it that is the fundamental reason why anything at all exists? The laws of logic do not explain why things exist. They simply explain that the things that do exist, they equal themselves in a time index and they cannot equal their negation. But it does not explain why entities ontologically exist. I want to know what is it that is metaphysically primary, since you reject that it is God. I want to know what it is that is ontologically primary. You said it's concrete, and I want to know what it is. Because if you don't tell me what that is, you're not going to have grounds for reason or intelligibility.
The laws of logic explain why nothingness is incoherent, and that explains why things do exist.
No, we've already covered this.
Now, I want to ask some questions. Is that fair?
You can ask questions of me, but you have not answered my questions.
I have absolutely answered it.
No, you have not. I want to know what is concretely, metaphysically primary. The laws of logic do not explain why anything at all actually exists. It's simply a description that for whatever does exist, it cannot equal its negation, and it equals itself in a time index. But it doesn't explain ontologically why something exists. So I want to know, what is it that is ultimate, since it's not God, since it will be the foundation of your ability to reason and to predicate. I want to know concretely, what is it that is metaphysically primary?
You keep repeating the question, even though I've answered it. So follow along.
No, you haven't. You haven't answered it.
So follow along very carefully. The laws of logic explain why nothingness is incoherent. One.
No, they do not.
And the fact that nothingness is incoherent explains why things exist. The laws of logic do explain why nothingness is incoherent.
Explain to me, how does the law of identity explain why anything at all does exist?
Because nothingness is incoherent.
How is that incoherent?
Because something exists and something cannot come from nothing.
That does. Yeah. You're listen. You are extremely confused. All right, and I'm not trying to be insulting.
Tell me where I'm wrong. How can something come from nothing?
Because you're giving, what you're doing is, I'm not asserting that. What I'm saying to you is, you keep on pulling from your script by appealing to the laws of logic. The laws of logic do not state what is ontologically primary. It's simply a characterization about how anything at all exists, be it eternal or temporal, whatever distinct entity, that it equals itself in a time index, and it cannot equal its negation. It is not a statement of why something ontologically exists. Now, what is it that is ontologically primary, that prescribes how anything is possible and why anything at all ontologically exists? What is that ontological primary? And please don't say the laws of logic, because we've gone over this.
The laws of logic.
Okay,
so we agree that something cannot come from nothing.
That doesn't answer the question.
Can we agree that something cannot come from nothing?
I can agree with you, because your worldview doesn't have a foundation.
Neither does yours, and you can't explain why.
Okay.
And you're unwilling to answer any questions or let me finish my questions.
I'll be glad to answer your questions, but are you admitting that your worldview doesn't have a foundation?
Of course it has a foundation. Yours
doesn't. What is your ontological, metaphysical primary foundation?
So can we agree that something cannot come from nothing?
I asked you a question. What is it that is metaphysically primary?
I asked you a question and you dodged it.
I'm not dodging questions.
Can we agree that something cannot come from nothing?
I will await your answer to the question. Giving me the answer, the laws of logic are not.
You're going to be waiting for a long time then, because you're avoiding my question.
I'm not avoiding. I'll be glad to answer a long list of your questions. I want to know what is it that is metaphysically primary, and the reason why anything exists, not the state that they exist in where they cannot equal their negation. I'm asking you, why does anything metaphysically or ontologically exist?
Before Snake tries to answer that question, I just want to say that James Coons, the moderator, is doing an excellent job up to this point. Notice that Darth Dawkins hasn't lost his shit yet, and it's been almost 45 minutes of straight, if you can call it debate, but it's certainly hasn't gotten out of hand. And I'd like to say to James Coons, the moderator, well done. Good going, mate. Good going.
Okay, and that will be what is ultimate. So what is it concretely that is ultimate?
The laws of logic explain
we've already been over this again. The laws of logic, the law of identity doesn't explain. Does the law of identity explain?
Why can't
you will speak? You will speak.
Okay.
Does the law of identity explain?
You're getting a little heated.
Of identity, because you're being rude and obnoxious.
You're getting a little heated there, Cupcake.
So especially when you're a rude, obnoxious.
Just where we are.
You're the one interrupting.
Just to be sure we know where we are.
Why don't you give me an adult answer?
Come on now. So I can't remember who asked the original question last.
Yeah.
So
I asked, what
think
is it that is
that's not-
ontologically
that's not-
primary?
No,
He keeps
no,
on
I
saying the laws of
was
logic.
saying I don't remember who it was that asked it first. So what we can do is, I do know, Darth, you have asked a lot of questions, which is great. There's nothing wrong
I haven't
with
had
that.
my question answered.
But what we'll do is we'll give Snake a chance to ask a question.
So well, here's a clarification. If the laws of logic are what is metaphysically primary and eternal, does that mean all entities are eternal, Snake?
Nope.
Well, then that means that the laws of logic cannot be metaphysically primary, because some of the things that are represented as the laws of logic are temporal. So you can't answer anymore the laws of logic. What is it that is metaphysically primary, that is the ground of why things exist? Okay.
So I'm rude, but when the moderator is literally telling you to allow me
It's
to
a
ask a
pity I
question,
cannot comment
you
this
just
live.
jump in and start asking your
I'll be
questions.
glad to
again.
answer your questions. I want an answer.
I hear that Pio would like to comment, and I would like Pio to comment. So
No, you don't need to stop now.
you said you want to comment.
No. The thing is, when I make my comment, when I make my comment is 15, 20 seconds too late. I love how Snake is doing it, right? He says cupcake, oh my sweet bunny boy, and he's so quiet and not going with the game, with the primary responsible for all causes, blah 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 bullshit from Darth Dawkins.
The best point he's making is that nothingness is incoherent, right? And he's saying that the laws of logic show that nothingness is incoherent. And
yes, of course.
Darth Dawkins, his mind is all sort of knotted up. He can't figure anything out because he's knots in his brain. Snake was right. He's at an intellectual level. Stories above where Darth Dawkins is. So we can talk about it more, or we could listen more, or.
The thing is, Sydney, I'm hearing even your voice. The thing is, I'm hearing your voice from YouTube. I'm not hearing your voice from the chat. So you ask me questions, and 15 seconds later, I'm answering.
How are you not
so
hearing
I'll
my voice
mute
in the
myself
chat?
again
Hold
and
on.
just answer in the chat. It makes no sense to make live comments for me.
I don't understand why you're not hearing my voice in the chat. Ah, okay. I do understand. This chat is a wash. I hear what's going on here. We have a 15-second. We have a 15-second problem. Yeah.
You were muted, so I could only hear your answers or questions.
Yeah, and my microphone has an issue.
Live stream. And this is why I will just leave it for now, and let's go watch the debate. And I will only answer in the text chat. I think that's
okay. All right, that'll work. And then once we're done with the video, we can see if we can just open up the room and settle it all in. Carry on.
No, you won't. No, you won't. You're just
I'm waiting for an answer.
Repeating your question like the aggressive.
That's because you haven't answered it.
Yes, I have. You don't like the answer.
The laws of logic Do the laws of logic cover all entities?
So wait a minute. I don't think so. I had said that we'd go to Snake for his question. So I think that I don't know if that was actually asked. So Snake, if you, that did you get to ask that question?
I'll be glad to answer a series of questions. I want my question answered. The laws of logic cannot be ontologically primary.
We're gonna give Snake a chance to ask a question.
Yeah, give him a get out of jail card free. Okay.
Listen.
Or get out of jail free card.
Listen to this. Okay, go ahead, Snake.
I mean, I have so many questions, but I would start with.
Yeah, you're not going to get any answers to my questions until you answer mine.
Wow.
I'm not going to answer any of your question until you answer my question.
Wait, Duncan, it's fair. Like, you've asked a lot of questions.
No, it's not fair. He hasn't answered the question. The laws of logic, by definition, cannot be ontological primary.
Duncan, we're just gonna give him a chance to ask a question.
Because if they're universal, then everything is ontologically primary.
Duncan, I appreciate.
Is everything ontologically primary, Snake?
Duncan, no, that's not how this works.
He should call himself Snake as the Dodger.
Okay, so we're gonna give him a chance to ask his question, but without being interrupted. So
I thought you were gonna get me a serious interlocutor, James.
Oh, here we go. Okay,
go ahead. Here we go.
Okay, so we just have to only answer your questions, and if you don't like that, then you just keep asking the same.
No, what I don't like is you keep on dodging and evading my question.
Oh man,
that's what I don't like, and I'm gonna confront you to your face in front of the YouTube audience.
And so we established in the first couple of minutes that you couldn't answer any of the questions. You kept dodging. What evidence? You couldn't even give a single piece of evidence. And now you're... So
is that a question or is that a recapitulation?
I think you're a little bit triggered by the fact that I exposed that right in the first
You haven't exposed anything. You're
so
just making
now
assertions.
You're trying to push it back on me, and you're not allowing me to ask any follow-up questions, or... You just want it to be a one-sided thing. So,
all right. How about every question you ask me, I'll say the laws of logic, the laws of logic, the laws of logic. How would you like that?
I didn't merely answer with the laws of logic. I explained what the laws of logic explain, why nothingness is incoherent, and why things don't exist. I don't merely state the laws of logic.
Tell me, where do you get these universals from?
Like you merely state God explains it, but you won't explain how God explains any of it.
Actually, I did explain it. You just don't accept it.
You merely asserted it.
Okay. And you merely asserted that there are universals. How did you determine there are universals? Explain that to the YouTube audience.
Let's walk through this together.
How did you determine there are universals?
Can we agree that something cannot come from nothing?
In my worldview, God is the grounds of all possibility and demarcates impossibility. There is no realm where there is an impersonal absolute, unless you want to argue for it. Do you want to argue for an impersonal absolute as a grounding?
That's not what I asked, is it? Can we agree that something cannot come from nothing?
I cannot agree because we have two different worldviews. So I
don't have a worldview.
Actually,
I just have observations. No, I don't.
No, okay. Wow. Okay. Are observations grounded ontologically?
Sure. Can we agree that something cannot come from nothing?
Okay.
Not a God. A God cannot ground it because you haven't explained how a God grounds any of it. You just said,
if a God
in my belief, it grounds it.
Wow.
Well, that's not good enough.
Yeah, James, you're gonna have to screen my interlocutors better than I.
So Snake is asking, can we agree that something cannot come from nothing? And Darth Dawkins will not commit himself to even responding to that question. He won't say, yes, we agree. He won't say, no, we disagree. This is the mark of a super troll. I honestly am past the point of believing that Darth Dawkins is anything but a super troll. That's it. Maybe he's I believe he's narcissistic and he's malignantly narcissistic. But the people he uses for his narcissistic supply also, I guess, tickles his sense of being the boss. His sense of being the brutal king. Whose king kills all his enemies, in the old medieval romance type situations. Maybe he's just living the life of a troll. That's what I think. The more I listen to this guy.
Next time. This is terrible. This is as bad as the last couple of guys. Okay.
Okay, Cupcake. So can we agree that something cannot come from nothing?
Okay. Nothing cannot exist because God is a necessary being. Anything that does exist. Okay. Well, in your worldview, how are there inferences in your not God worldview if it does not follow?
Because being is necessary.
How do you know anything is necessary? How do you know anything is necessary?
Because it has to be. Because otherwise, it's incoherent. Otherwise, it just becomes a soup of incoherent
then all
nonsense.
you're simply saying is, okay, well then how do you know the world is
If nothing is necessary, then things can't behave in ways. They would just be completely random.
Could you tell me what is it that is ontologically and metaphysically necessary? What is it?
Existence.
That existence is not a predicate. I've already explained that to you.
That doesn't explain anything.
Okay,
something must exist.
Listen to me. How do you know that?
Because something exists.
Okay, so what you're saying is, therefore, there can't be contradictions.
Humans can make contradictions. But
no, I said, can there be
contradictions in the laws of physics?
Why can't there be any contradictions
in the laws of physics?
You keep on saying can't. What is it that is ultimately that prevents anything from not being? What is it that is ontologically primary that prescribes what can and cannot be?
Whatever it is, that's what's controlling God's behavior.
Could you tell me what it is that is what is it that is ontologically primary that makes whatever is what establishes what's necessary? You said something is necessary. Well, the only necessary thing will be what is ontologically primary. What is that?
I've already explained this. Whatever makes logic work. So
no, logic doesn't work. Logic is an abstraction. Logic is abstractions. Now, when you
behave according to rules.
So there are
including your God.
Okay, so you believe that there are causal relations?
Yes.
Okay. What is it that institutes causal relations between events?
Cause and effect. The fact that's how things work.
No, you're just repeating that. You're repeating the same claim. What is it? Listen carefully.
You're not allowing me to finish.
Okay. No, you're not understanding. You repeated the same answer. Now, what is it?
I'm
listen
letting
carefully.
The get out of
I'll be brief.
Mouth.
I will be brief. Listen to the question because you're not understanding. I will be brief. I will be brief. Okay.
This is where I think that the moderator is starting to slip up a bit, James. You're allowing Dunkin Atheism to overtalk Snake was right. Over and over and over again. So, James, I'm expecting a better performance from you now.
Hey, you didn't understand the question.
Hold on
now,
a second.
What I want to know.
What was the question?
Yeah, James, listen, you keep on inviting me here, and you get these little obnoxious little punks.
All right.
I mean, this is getting irritating.
You're
okay.
You're name calling. It's like it's not.
Okay.
A big
deal.
I
am name calling because it's a very good observation. I'd like to get my question out. He's obviously not understanding the question. Now, you said it's the way things work. You didn't understand the question because you repeated the same statement. Now, let me get my question.
You wouldn't let me answer it.
What is it that instantiates and sustains causal relations and connections metaphysically and ontologically?
May I have a question?
I'd like an answer to that question. After you answer that and give me a
I've
clear,
done
honest
nothing.
answer.
I've done nothing but answer your obnoxious questions this whole time.
No, you told me something was necessary. Okay. Then you said it works. I want to know. Okay, listen.
When can I get my
James,
questions?
listen to me, dude. Listen to me. If you, I'm not going to give up with your obnoxious little tactics. I asked you a question. If you want to ask me a series of questions, I'll answer it.
We do have
I want to know what is it that instantiates the causal principle.
Sorry. Duncan, please work with me here. I don't want to. I hate muting people.
Yeah, well then speak to Snake here. Ask him to work with you too.
There's limited time.
You always go soft. You can laugh all you want, James. You always go soft on these obnoxious atheists.
No.
Every single time.
Okay, Duncan.
Yeah, you are.
I'm gonna mute you. Don't do this. Come on.
I don't care. I really don't care. At this point, I'm very frustrated that you have a double standard.
I don't have a double standard.
Yeah, you do.
It's fair for him to want to ask questions, isn't it?
Wow. You know what, James? I'm really getting irritated with you. I want to know what instantiates the causal principle, Snake.
Okay, Duncan. I hope you don't quit. Don't quit. I muted you, Duncan. It's just that. Give me 1 second. Isn't it fair that Snake would get to ask some questions as well? Like,
yeah, I've been answering his questions.
Okay.
Then he makes these assertions,
I think,
and I ask him. I want to know where he gets these assertions from. He said something's necessary. I want to know what the simple.
I'm sorry for muting you again, but it's only
James, you're giggling like a little schoolgirl.
I can't help it. It's the way I giggle. Okay, Duncan. It's just that there have been. I think you've maybe asked a number of
that. Yeah, I've only asked a couple of questions that he won't answer.
But I want him to have the chance to ask questions too. I think that's fair. And he's been, you have to give him credit. He's been persistent in like pushing for that.
Yeah, he's been persistently obnoxious.
No, that's not what I was thinking. So
yeah,
why don't we do just a couple of questions, like a question series?
Good. Then we'll go back to this question that he refuses and dodges answer. Go ahead. I'll give you 3 questions, and then you're going to answer my question about your assertion about what's necessary. Go ahead.
I'm going to have a lot more than 3. So I don't know everything. Your tactic seems to be just relentless onslaughts of questions. So some of your questions I would like to actually explore with you, but your tactic seems to just preach.
Do you have a question for me? Do you have a question for me? Or do you want to lecture me?
It's fair.
Getting there.
Set it up.
I'd like a question instead of giving me a little monologue.
Getting there. So I would prefer people who I can actually converse these things with.
Do you have a question for me?
Just let him.
James, listen to me. You're being a terrible moderator, and I'm really getting irritated with you.
From everybody, so thanks.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
Snake, do you have a question for me?
We've got to give him a chance to give the setup.
No, it's not a setup. He's monologuing. I want the question.
So your last question. What was your last question, real quick?
My question was, you stated, well, this is how the things that are necessary, how things work. And I asked you, what instantiated and sustains the causal principle so that the concept of things working and being necessary is an intelligible one? What is it that instantiates the causal principle so that inferences are an intelligible concept? Because
that question does not make any sense. And every time he rephrases it and retwists it, it makes even less sense. What do you think? Tell me in the comments.
if you don't tell me what instantiates the causal principle, you have no grounds for inferences.
So I would like to explore those concepts with you and ask some questions about your
Do you have an answer to my question?
Because we can expose how weak the answer of God is and how God's behavior is, in fact, dependent upon these causal principles. So you asked, how do we know what instantiates causal principles so things can work intelligibly? And I want to know, how does your God do that?
Okay. God is a necessary eternal being. He is the ground of all being. He's eternal.